Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions. With your host, Bryan. We're going to finish up today with a special selection, which is where one of you tell me exactly what it is I need to check out. If you have your own song that you'd like to submit, you can find a link to do so in the description below. Today's special selection comes at us from Cynical Matt. Hey Bryan, please react to this avant-garde industrial black metal track by Dødheimsgard. 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 I hope one of those is correct. I was going to provide some background, but this video's description section does a great job of that, so I'll just refer to there. So it's probably too small to read, but this is a description section. I'm going to look at this real quick. It says Norway's Dødheimsgard was formed in '94 by Vikotnik and Aldron. The early incarnation was that of a raw melodic black metal, with their debut album also featuring Fenriz of Darkthrone on bass. Okay, seeing a connection here. Before the poisons of a more avant-garde and schizophrenic concoction started to take hold. One of the top bands and boundary-pushing visionaries of the mid-90s Norwegian black metal evolution, having released 4 full-length albums since their inception, DHG, oh that's a lot easier to say, are widely hailed as masters of dark and psychotic psychedelia-tinged extremity. The first fruits of DHG's reimagined labor manifest in the shape of a new studio album, A Umbra Omega, with original co-founding members Aldron making a return to the asylum on vocal duties alongside Vikotnik's exquisite and unconventional compositions and structures. Alright. This has me a bit worried. I was kind of expecting that melodic black metal element, and come to find out that that was only the beginning of the description. We're going to get into something a little bit more psychedelic. Anyways, let's see what DHG's got for us today with Aphelion Void. Really interesting idea there on these cymbals. What is this? Saxophone. Oh yeah. Yeah, that polyrhythmic idea there with the cymbal. Jeez. Very psychedelic vibe though. It's just kind of chill but ominous and very interpretive.
Over and
Okay. Very interesting polymetric idea going on here. With both like this triplet feel, but then these offbeat like 4 concept going on in the cymbals. Huh. Like, it definitely has this triplet vibe going on, but it doesn't feature a phrasing that fits into just divisible by 3. Still has this 3 pulse going on here too, even though we've shifted to what feels like 4/4. Yeah, the time signature is still all over the place. Like, for the 3 and the 4, neither one of them, I think, really lines up with the phrasing. It's more like a forced realigning. That effect on the vocals, this is the second time I think it's being used, and it puts a smile on my face. A lot of what the vocals do put a smile on my face though. I do think this is the most stereotypical black metal that we've seen thus far. But there's also this really nice width to it as well. It's interesting too, a lot of the production so far I feel has been very clean, but we've really muddied it up and gone to like a condensed kind of muffled vibe now. Once again. 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3. Ooh. 2 3 4 and 1 2. So we still have this idea of 3 versus 4. it's just on a different level than it was previously, where it's been polymetric. This is putting threes into 4 rather than having 3 against 4. Yeah, very different vibe though. Really digging into tension in a lot of different manners. We can also look at the contrast of simplicity here. The vocal harmonies are getting more and more inhuman as the song goes on. And it's not just the harmonies either, there's also the effects put on it as well. So interesting to have these moments contrasting with stuff we've heard previously. There's a lot of chaos in a lot of what we hear, and this is very cohesive with a strong element of melody and chord. Actually, the vertical structure of this is very balanced. That natural energy transition there, giving it more momentum and movement. It's like fleeting moments of clarity within the chaos. That is a tasty bass line. It's kind of frustrating how often these vibes will come in that I'm really jamming along with, and just how quickly they leave. Nice little 7 vibe there. And this guitar lick we've heard before, actually. Yeah, that section right there with all the harmonic hits. Just beautiful. I love this. What do you guys have me listening to sometimes? So I'm not quite sure of everything in here. There's a lot of interesting elements that the avant-garde aspect brings into play that are purposefully disruptive, right? Even in this description, I don't know how official this description is, but calls them schizophrenic concoctions with the avant-garde elements. And it says that they're hailed as masters of dark and psychotic psychedelia, which I just realized is like redundancy. We got psychedelic in 2 words back to back. But yeah, it's 100% there, right? There's a lot of sections in here that feel disjointed, not even just with structurally on a horizontal level, like going from section to section where we will drastically have these huge shifts in tempo, style, vibe, atmosphere. It's structural whiplash in a lot of sections, but also within each section, it's very disjointed. We have those moments like that at the end where there's a nice groove, where we have a balanced vertical structure. We have our foundational work, we have our chords, we have our melody lines on top of that, we have the bass sitting in there and keeping everything rooted, and it's just, really beautifully palatable in a more standard construction. And that'll be paired right up against a section that is all over the place. Vocals doing wild things with, thrashy drum work and a bass that's walking a bass line that I don't even think is in the chord progression that everything else is working in, and a melody that's just kind of doing its own thing. And then we'll go from that into another chill groove section where everything is vertically balanced. And why? How? What is going on? And so to call this song chaotic, I think it's a bit of an understatement, right? We've listened to chaotic songs before, especially looking at some mathcore ideas a few weeks back, and that was chaotic on sort of the minutia level. There's always a lot of things going on. This is chaotic in every aspect of it. There is a disjointedness to micro levels of what's happening in each of these sections, what's happening note wise. They had a few sections that really dove into some chordal instability and playing around with uh, dissonance, right? Creating noise, overlapping ideas. But then we also have chaos on more macro ideas, how 2 sections go together. What's the transition between them? Is there any similarities between the 2 sections? And we can even look at chaos on the larger level if we tried to, which I'm not going to be able to. If we wrote out the structure of this song from beginning to end, what would it even look like? There are moments of repetition where we would see a repeated section, but I think for the most part, those would be interspersed between extended moments of linearity. And just it is a song that does a lot of somethings in a long amount of time, while also having a few callbacks to other somethings that it did in the chaos. And I can't even say that there was a consistency in timbre either. There were certainly some elements that were commonly used across all the spectrums of the sections, but there was a saxophone in like 3 minutes of this 15-minute track. The vocals varied greatly, not just in the production, I mean, in the vocal production itself, creating the sounds. We had some growls, and we also had some screams, and we had some what seemed to be lesser controlled, or at least the appearance of lesser controlled clean vocals. But then we also had harmonies and the note relationships between those harmonies, and then production put on these harmonies and the isolated vocals as well, and all the different sounds that came out of that. We had different productions on the drums on the entire band at times, actually. I mentioned that at the beginning, especially when the saxophone came in. It was chaotic in the fact that all these elements were overlapping each other, but also at the same time, it was very separated, right? Production wise, you could hear all these instruments, right? Musically, they were overlapping. Production wise, they were given space. But then 5-6 minutes later, we get sort of a lo-fi black metal element where everything is sort of muffled, and it's difficult to hear the core timbre of pretty much anything coming through. A lot of the drum stuff, you're really just getting the attack. The guitars were losing their notes. It was really just the texture of the sound that they were doing. And the bass was just getting lost in between all of that. And I mean, it's just, how do you approach speaking about a song like this that almost willfully pushes back against being understood? I think what I'm going to do in an unusual manner is read the lyrics first, and then we'll see what's going on with that. And we'll see how I can adapt that to some of the things that I heard in the music. Because honestly, if I were to break down everything I heard, first of all, I don't remember it all, right? As I've mentioned before, the longer the song, the less in depth I'm going to be able to get into individual elements. That's just the longer the song, the more stuff there is, it's more things to remember. My memory is only so good. As with all humans, I have limitations. But secondly, this is an incredibly dense song, so not only are there a lot of sections to remember, but each section is doing a lot of stuff. Well, I might. All right, I'm gonna hold off on the lyrics a little bit. I think I found a way to break up the song to speak about musically what's going on. Um, so yeah, let's dive into that then. The song basically jumps between three ideas: pure chaos, pure-ish black metal, and vibiness. That vibiness comes through in a couple different ways. Let's start off with the chaos, right? I think this is the most avant-garde aspect when you look at individual sections. This would be like the saxophone part, where we have these very atypical vocals. It's almost like someone speaking or yelling. We have guitar parts, saxophone parts, bass lines, and vocal melodies that are all just sort of overlapping on each other. It sounds like a mess rather than a structured section of a song. And then the drums are typically in these areas utilizing either polymetric ideas or polyrhythmic ideas so as to create a lack of perceivable element of rhythm, right? It's not so much like we saw at the end where we saw 3 beats inside of 4 beats, right? Where we saw these triplet ideas on each beat. So we had the 3 within the 4, which gave you that groove, right? You could feel the 4 or you could kind of feel those 3s. Either way, you're getting into a groove. But with some of these earlier sections, it's difficult to lay down what is the groove, what is the beat. And it's because that it almost felt like different beats from different rhythmic ideas were given prominence. So it might take the downbeat of the first beat in 4, which would be 1. But then instead of giving us 2, it would give us the second beat of a triplet feel, right? That would be our next accent, which would be like just off of the end of 2, but not like on the offbeat of 2. And then it would give us, our third emphasized beat might be 4, the fourth beat of that 4/4. So the distance between all of these emphasized notes is different. There is no consistency between it. And it creates this idea, and if that's what's happening, which I think it might be what's happening. I'm not 100% sure, but if it is, that is a really interesting way to go about creating the groove, or another way of saying it, obscuring the groove. It isn't about giving the listener a beat to groove to, or to move their body to, or to headbang to. It's about actually the opposite of that, and making it difficult to find that core idea. And that's an interesting way to go about it. Not only just using polyrhythms to make something sound more technical, but emphasizing different elements of the polyrhythmic or polymetric idea and jumping back and forth between them so that your emphasized elements don't fit with each other as a whole. You would have to view the emphasized elements in a duality. Listen to just the emphasized notes in the 4/4, or just the emphasized notes in the 3 or the 5, or whatever is being played against it to create this poly idea. That's ingenious. Like I said, I don't know if that's exactly what they were doing, but in retrospective, I kind of feel like that's what they were, and that's just a really neat idea. Even if it isn't what they were doing, I've never thought about doing that before, and that would be just a really cool way of disguising a time signature. So yeah, those are the more avant-garde sections, right? The time signatures are hidden. The subsequently the tempo is a bit hidden because of that. And there isn't really this balanced structural idea vertically of having foundational works, chordal works, and melodic works that kind of create this pyramid, right? Where you have strong foundation, which might be a bass line. You have your chord above that to create the chord progression for what the melody should be playing within. And then above that, you have your melody or your melodies that are going to be playing within the foundational stuff that you've set up. Instead, we have everybody kind of doing their own thing, stepping on each other's toes, melodic lines that are creating dissonance in some of the dyads and triads that they're creating. They're not rhythmically in time with each other. No instrument is taking rest to allow another instrument to play and shine in certain aspects of the bar. It is just kind of like listening to a bunch of people warm up. There's no accounting for other voices. You're literally playing just as loud as everybody else. Things that don't necessarily line up with what other people are playing, and it's noise, right? And that to me is their more chaotic avant-garde areas. They also have more standard black metal sections. The production changes for these, but the ideas are rather predictable. Lots of attacks. Tremolo picking, double bass kicks, sometimes, I don't remember if they were blast beats or not. I remember the double bass kicks. I don't really remember a lot of fast snares back to back. But anyways, lots of attacks. The bass kicks, you got your drum, your guitars doing their tremolo picking stuff. We actually saw this to introduce the song, and I want to talk about this duality as well, because there are some black metal sections that stick to old school black metal, just kind of playing a single note and occasionally changing it, maybe having a little riff at the end of 4 bars or whatever. But for the most part, it's about the attacks, the texture, right? And these sections also happen to be accompanied with the lower fidelity production, like what I mentioned earlier, with the sound that felt more narrow and muffled. However, we also have a section like the beginning. I think it was the first proper section. It might have been when the screen was black, actually, where we have the tremolo picking, we have the faster drumming, but there's melody to it, right? And if we remove all of the tremolo picking and we replace and we focus on just when the notes change, we actually get these really nice whole note movements. That's a more melodic take on the black metal, and you'll also notice that those sections tend to have better production so that the melody can shine through against the production rather than the production overshadowing the musicality of it. And the third section that we have in these sections is the vibe, right? That's they go through a couple of different one of these, but it's when we actually get that strong vertical foundation. We have our foundational stuff. We have a drum that's creating a groove. We have a bass that's introducing groove and or chords, usually walking bass lines in here, which is really cool. A lot of the times the bass is present, they're walking a bass line. I think that's awesome. And then there's a melody that sits above this. None of these sections have words, if I remember correctly, or vocal aspects at all. And I absolutely love these sections. These are what I just really fell into, and I found them to be places of relief from the chaos that was existing elsewhere in the song. These were the moments for me to catch my breath and chill for a little bit, but as I mentioned during the song, they're also short-lived. As soon as they come, they're already gone. And the song really dances back and forth between these ideas. It kind of jumps back and forth between the first two that I spoke of, and every once in a while puts in these groovier, vibier intermissions. And that is pretty much how the song is structured. Like I said, it's still, I don't know the exact structure of the song, and they do introduce a lot of variety with these three types. I wouldn't say that any one section, or even if we grouped all the black metal sections, all the avant-garde chaos sections, all the groovier atmospheric sections, we put them all back to back, and we do this like all the chaos sections, and then all the black metal, and then all the groovy ones, and we arrange the song in that manner. I think we would still find a lot of variety in what we're hearing. So they are introducing a lot of contrasting elements even within these styles. I don't want that to say that the song is it's only 3 sections and they just kind of no. There's still a lot of ideas being pushed into this 15-minute track. They just fall under these umbrellas that I think make it easier to talk about. What's interesting, though, is that while we have contrast between the individual elements, we don't have contrast in the transitions. Almost all the transitions in here are extremely harsh, going from one idea to the next without a transitory idea to bridge them. It's one bar we're in black metal, the next bar we're in chill, and one bar we're chilling, and the next bar we're in this avant-garde stuff. But what ties it all together, and what I think helps it feel like a whole song rather than just a series of disjointed ideas, is, as this description so eloquently put, I don't. It was right there. Why have I forgot? Oh, masters of dark and psychotic extremity. I think that the atmosphere to a lot of this is what keeps it all together. I don't know if they're just sticking to similar chord progressions, similar modes. Maybe the whole thing is all in the same key, but every part of this song has that same eerie, creeping vibe to it, right? There's something a bit dark and sinister to every aspect of this song. Whether it has a saxophone, or wailing vocals, or somebody who sounds like they're losing their mind, or it's hyper layered in contrasting ways, or it's hyper layered in very consonant ways. It all has this sort of dark edge to it, and it allows the song to feel unified. So I'm going to take a second, look at the lyrics, and wrap this up. And hopefully I keep my mind intact as we do that. And yep, it definitely seems to be on the edge of profound. I'm not quite sure that I understand it. There's a lot of really interesting imagery in here, though. But it seems to be, at least on some level, about perception of reality. Right? How we view life and, well, not life, existence, I think would be a better way to state that. How we perceive existence and what tools we might use that is actually warping our perception into ways that are not necessarily accurate. But I feel like some of this gets twisted a bit in the final stanza, which is my favorite line of the song. He says, "There's a place called reality." Dude, the way that he's saying that. I feel so bad for laughing at songs that I feel are, at least on some level, serious, right? If it's obviously tongue-in-cheek, if it's obviously parody or comedic, that seems to be the intention. So I feel like I'm laughing along with them. This feels like a serious song, and I do feel a little guilty about laughing in certain sections of it. But the vocal delivery is just, it borders between tongue-in-cheek and seriously unhinged. And I think sometimes it just kind of leans too far into the parody of it, at least for my tastes, and it feels comical. And for him to shout, "There is a place called reality," the way that he does, it killed me, man. But he says there's a place called reality, hidden to all men. You can reach it through insanity, but never to return again. And I think this sort of switches a lot of my interpretation of this song into a different realm, because it would insist that our perception of reality is flawed or skewed because we consider ourselves sane, because we apply to societal norms of thinking, and that the only way to see the true reality is to allow our minds to be free from societal shackles and to reach a point of insanity. It reminds me of a line that Human Abstract utilizes in one of their songs off their second album that says, sanity is dictated by what the larger percentage of society sees. And I mean, it informs my reading of this, that sanity and insanity are dictated by social norms. There's definitely a medical element to it, right? We have, proper medical terms for what is like a break from the reality to see a different reality, which I think is kind of what this guy is talking about. I don't think that it's a coincidence that we seem to be speaking about psychotic breaks in the lyrics, while the description of this band is psychotic, psychedelic tinged extremity, that it's avant-garde and schizophrenic concoction, bringing in these ideas of breaking away from the norm, breaking away from reality. But I don't know, because it like enters into this interesting idea of, again, perception, right? Perception of the norm. We have an understanding of psychosis, and to make light of it and to say that the only way to really see through the world and see what's actually going on is through psychosis, I don't think is a fantastic message. I think it might be a metaphor, in which case it would work better on the metaphorical level, but I don't know. The straight reading of it, the surface level read, it's just a little for me. But again, like I said, a lot of this is kind of going over my head. There's a lot of elements in here that I think actually work about speaking of these ideas of perception without moving into that idea. Now, how this all ties into the music, I don't think that needs any explaining. The song is extremely chaotic, disjointed. It moves through a lot of different ideas back to back, without any sort of rhyme or reason or pattern to it. It's a lot of different elements fighting for relevancy, fighting for the ability to be played, to be heard, for that section to come out and be that part of the song. So we can see a sort of, if we continue on with this idea of psychosis, either bipolar or multiple personality disorder, or even a schizophrenic element to the music. But again, I feel like using those words to describe the song, especially given what I believe its textual element to be, feels a bit sketchy. I don't know. But it could also just be a language thing. They're Norwegian, and maybe not even language, but also cultural, right? I think the words here are all used properly. I don't think it's a lost in translation thing, but it might be a cultural thing where their words, or the way that they perceive different ideas, and metaphors, similes, old sayings, they're just different than how these words might mean to me, what these words might mean to me. But yeah, this is where you guys come in. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know if you enjoyed this one or not, if you have your own reading or take on what's going on here, and especially if there's anything in the music that you would like to specifically talk about. Like I said, it was a very long, in-depth track, so I could really only give a surface read on it. But if there was any specific section that really stood out to you, go ahead and let me know, and we can start a discussion in the comment section for sure. Above the comments, if you could, head into the description box for the link for Linktree. It takes you to this menu right here with everything related to the channel. You can join the Patreon and vote on future themes and songs. You can submit your own special selection. You can join Discord and chat with me. I'm very active in the Discord server. You can pick up some merch. You can follow me on Twitter. It's just a bunch of stuff in there. Go ahead and check it out. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I'd greatly appreciate all three of those. I guess also technically share it. I mean, I had like 3 years, well, like 2.5 years in now. I don't think I've ever asked people to share my videos. I don't know if I should. Do people share videos? Is that like a thing? Like, I don't ever see reaction videos getting shared places. I don't know. Anyways, rambling a bit. I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC as usual. We'll be looking at another... What are we looking at? What is this week? Oh, deep cuts. We'll be looking at some more deep cuts and another special selection. Until next time, remember to be critical and not cynical of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.